Hello, this is Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech number 139, going over how to trade for a Black Lotus. Individuals who are on my Instagram know that I recently traded for a Black Lotus at PAX, which was my second one, and I'd like to just give some advice on how to get there. But before we dive in, you gotta remember Black Lotus is the most iconic Magic card. It jumps you forward 3 turns. It is an incredible investment. It has only gone up over the last 20 years, and it's still going up at this point because of the interest in vintage masters online that has really got some collectors excited about picking up power again. And all of the power has started to go up, which is just amazing. How rare is a Black Lotus? We're looking at about 20 to 23,000 of them out there, total printed. I have no idea how many of those have survived the last 20 years. Not even going to hazard a guess, but it's an extremely rare card. There's a small number of them out there. First thing you got to do is be prepared, know your prices. Know what the top end of what Lotuses are selling for, which is about $4,000 for near mint, really nice looking, and about 1600 for the they've been completely beat but are still sleeve legal. I wouldn't pick one up that has a crease in it or is not legal. That really kills the ability for you to ever get rid of it again or even use it in a cube. Even if it's been heavily played, you're looking at more than 1300. I mean, this is one that I pulled off eBay here that is just really, really well played. It still has a few days left on the auction. We'll probably hit 1600. TCG Player is not always the best source of prices because there's so few of them out there. There were only 3 there when I went to look. I'd say that those 3 are a little bit overpriced given the condition of them. Card Kingdom has much better prices and they're a very hard grader. Star City has some of the higher prices and they appear to be sold out. They also grade pretty hard on this high-end stuff. So you know you'll be getting quality cards there. The condition does matter a lot. The difference between a completely beat or what's called good shaped card and a high-end card is several $1,000s. You need to be able to look at that card, figure out, is it gradable, just amazing looking, is it slight played, or are we down into that played or good condition? I'll go over those grading levels in another video. There's a lot to learn about grading, but being able to differentiate those is several $100s to several $1,000s. So it's very important to take the condition into account. This is a prime example of a played Black Lotus. I found it over at ABU Games. They've got full high-res scans on their cards. They're asking, I believe, $2,500 for this. This is the type of high-res scan that you're going to want to look at before trading for one, or preferably even having the opportunity to see it in person. A lot of people ask me if they should go for an altered Lotus. I personally would avoid it as an investment, but be happy to pick it up if it's a card that I'm going to keep in my collection forever. If I'm putting it in a cube or putting it in a vintage deck, 100% fine with that. The resale on altered cards is a very, very limited market. It's much tougher to move them. I would rather have a well-played one if it's an investment, but if you're just going to keep it to play, then go for it. Go for an incredible ultra like this one by Klug. Never, ever bend test a Lotus. There's a video going around currently with someone bend testing one. It's a 20-year-old card. It could still get damaged in this process. Cards get more fragile over time. You would be killing $1,000 to $2,000 worth of value if you get a small crease in it. Don't bend test it. Should you go for a graded one? I would avoid the premium, especially if you're picking it up to actually play in a cube or a vintage deck. The one advantage with graded, though, is you're 100% sure that it's authentic. It's gone through this process, and you know what you're getting, but you're going to pay a large premium. If you're going to play it, don't bother with graded. One of the big ways to do it is to get out of standard cards while they are hot. Right now, all of these cards have jumped up in price because everybody is jumping into play standard with cons cards, and these cards are going to be worth half to a third their current value in a year or two. So liquidating in standard to get into modern, legacy, or power is a very good idea before those cards start to drop. You're going to have to usually give a percentage when you make this type of a trade, this trading up, but that's okay. Look at it for the long term, not for the short term. If you're a dealer, you may have the ability to liquidate these at full value currently, but for individuals who are going to hold them through a season, they're going to be worth significantly less later. You have to look at the long-term picture, not the short-term picture. Another really good way to get in is through the legacy route. Collect some legacy staples and then find someone who hasn't played for a few years who is interested in getting into legacy. They will often trade off a few pieces of power to pick up an entire deck that they want to play in legacy. The legacy cards are much easier to find, much easier to replace than power. Yes, you'll be out of them short term, but you'll be able to replace them no problem. Another option is to go the dealer route. Find a dealer that gives a premium for store credit and then liquidate pieces of your collection for that piece of power. The buy list price on a volcanic island over at Card Kingdom is $185, but their store credit price is $240. That's a significant difference. You're only giving about 15% value when you are trading up into a card that is always going to have that incredible value to it. The next piece of advice that I have is let everybody know that you are in the market. People have friends of friends who have these cards and are often willing to make a deal, but you just have to find those individuals. The more people you tell, the more likely you are to find somebody who is willing to part with one at a reasonable price. Show up to major events, look around at people's binders, do it very early on in the event. The earlier the better. People often show up to Grand Prix, Penny Arcade Expo, other places where they know there are dealers and large traders in order to liquidate or change formats or build a cube. And that's what you're really looking for, is somebody who has that power and wants to get into a different format or a different style. In the meantime, start to trade up. Get rid of your standard cards whenever you can for Modern, your Modern for Legacy, and your Legacy for those eternal reserve list cards that just go up consistently over time. It's going to be those Legacy or Modern or Eternal cards that are going to act as the focal point of the trade. In the last Black Lotus trade, a Tabernacle of Pendrevale was definitely one of the major things that gave interest to the trade. You also need to go into it all in. Everything that's in your binder is available for trade. If there's something you really, really don't want to trade, don't put it in your binder. The individual with Lotus is going to feel much better about the trade if everything's available than if you are reserving large pieces of your trade stock. Anything else outside of power will be much easier to get back than to get power. Go into it with that open mindset. Work a deal. I'm not saying give them everything that you have, but work a reasonable deal and make sure that what you have is actually there to trade. This was the second Lotus that I traded for out at Penny Arcade Expo. Hurt a little bit to get rid of the Forces of Will and the Tabernacle, but I was very happy to have the Lotus, and I'm very happy with it long term. I wish you the best of luck in trading for a Black Lotus yourself. I also recommend checking out How to Trade for Power by Chase Anders. It's a wonderful article over at Star City Games. Thanks. This has been Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech. I'm almost at 5,000 subscribers. I'd love to have your help to get there. Also, thank you to everybody who supports the YouTube channel over at Patreon.